I don't think I've ever been so angry with a gearbox. Car Obsession is proudly supported by Carly and Draggy. Check out the video description to find out the latest discount codes. Hello guys, welcome back to Car Obsession and welcome to another point of view review. This time I'm joined by the brand new Suzuki S-Cross. So before I take you out for a drive, let me show you a little bit around the car. So this is the range-topping Ultra version. As standard, you get 17-inch alloys, although the Titan dark grey pearl metallic paintwork is an optional extra, which is £550. To show you the boot, it isn't the largest if I'm going to be honest. So let me just come around here. So what you are looking at is 293 litres, which is only 1 litre more compared to a Ford Fiesta. Now, of course, the boot is filled with my filming crap, but we'll cut to a clip where you can see it better. If you want more space, you can, of course, file down the 60/40 rear seats. But yes, the boot is a little bit disappointing. To quickly run you through the engine, just open up the engine bay. Right. So, make sure you can see the engine. So what you were looking at is a 1.5 litre naturally aspirated petrol, which is of course helped up by an electric motor because this car is a hybrid. Oh my word, the wind has really picked up. I'll tell you what, let me go into the car. I think that's nature's way of telling me to get on with it. So yes, let's do that. Oh my word, that wind. It's been so breezy in the UK this week. My word, I don't need a car, just get me a skateboard and a massive sail and away I go. Right. Okie dokie. So yes, this car is powered by a 1.5 litre don't know what that was, that's the radio. Yes, this car is powered by a 1.5 litre naturally aspirated petrol engine and an electric motor. This car offers 115 horsepower along with 138 newton meters of torque. If you prefer that in pound-feet, I will of course drop a subtitle below. I'll make sure I'm good to go, yep. Now I'm sure many of you aren't too fussed about performance, but in case you are, this will do 62 miles per hour in a rather pedestrian 13.5 seconds, and the top speed, in case you're really wondering, I doubt it, is 108 miles per hour. I'm sure what you're more interested in is of course the fuel economy. So on a combined run, Suzuki states this can offer up to 48.7, and in regard to emissions, this car emits 132 grams per kilometre, meaning for the first year of VED, you'll be required to pay just £220. Now, to touch upon the fuel economy, what I've been getting this week, well, I actually filled the car back up after all of my driving I've done this week. I covered 81 miles, most of which was in and around town, but I have done some faster roads as well. So I put 10.10 litres back into the car. Using calculations, that meant I'd got a real life fuel economy of just 36.46, which is quite disappointing. I've driven the car mostly in normal mode. This has got you've got snow, sport or auto driving modes. I have it in auto, or normal as I refer to it as. Yeah, I've driven this car in auto for most of the week. I've done a bit of sport and a bit of eco. Yeah, so to get just 36.46 isn't great if you ask me. I wouldn't call that exactly frugal. Anyway, moving things away from the fuel economy, as standard, actually let me talk you through pricing. So the S-Cross comes in 2 trim levels. You have Motion and Ultra. The Motion has a starting price of £27,249, whereas the Ultra, which is what I'm in, has a starting price of £32,049. As standard, this car offers 17-inch alloys, LED lights, front and rear parking sensors, all around view monitor, blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic alert, autonomous emergency braking, heated front seats, 9-inch touchscreen with DAB radio, navigation, smartphone connectivity and Bluetooth, dual zone climate control and adaptive cruise control. So as you can see, this car comes with a plethora of standard kit. You've also got fabric and leather upholstery, as well as a panoramic roof, which on a day like today is lovely because it means that the natural winter sunlight can make its way into the cabin, thus making it more airy in here. Although with the blind closed, I wouldn't say it feels particularly claustrophobic in here. On to the performance of the engine. The engine isn't too bad. I wouldn't call it pokey, but you wouldn't expect it to be because it hasn't got a turbocharger, although the electric motor does fill in the gaps as best as it can, and also the fact that this will take 13.5 seconds to hit 62 miles per hour. As standard on the Ultra, I have Suzuki's Allgrip system, therefore this car is four-wheel drive, something that many of its rivals cannot offer. I don't have a manual gearbox or indeed an auto. What I have is an automated manual. This is the same transmission I used in the Vitara I drove briefly last year, and back then, although it was frustrating, I was able to live with it. Now that I've lived with this car for a week, I have found this gearbox very annoying because, well, let me just come up this junction and I will explain why. Come on, that's exactly why. It's rather dim-witted, the changes aren't smooth at all, and I find quite often when leaving a junction or a roundabout, you kick down on the accelerator and the whole car just bogs down and nothing really happens for a few seconds. I wouldn't call it dangerous, but yeah, sometimes you set off on a roundabout and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, nothing's happening. There's a pause where it's almost as if the engine and the gearbox aren't talking to each other. In fact, the way how I would describe the relationship between the gearbox and the engine is like a really awkward handshake. They don't really know how to communicate with each other properly. Yeah, this is not a bad car, but this gearbox, I'm sorry Suzuki, it is a letdown. If I had the choice, I would live without it. I'd want a different transmission. You do have the option of taking control of the gearbox yourself by popping it into M mode for manual and using the flappy paddles on the steering wheel. And this does improve matters, to be fair. Those changes are relatively quick, and I said the same thing when I drove the Vitara. So this may be a better way of doing it. You may want to just take that manual control of the gearbox, and you'll find that it does make it easier to live with. Pop it into drive though, and yeah, you will find it to be frustrating. You'll notice every gear change, it's not jerky, but you can feel a slight tugging sensation. In and around town, yeah, it's not brilliant if I'm going to be honest. And the gearbox is also quite indecisive. Again, something I said when I drove the Vitara, particularly driving down country lanes. If there's any kind of incline or decline, the gearbox is constantly changing between ratios. I was on a country lane earlier, I was cruising quite steadily at in sixth, then all of a sudden the car kicked down and dropped to fourth gear. It didn't need to do that. Just, what are you doing? Now it has dropped to fifth gear, but that's because I have put more pressure through the accelerator, so I can understand that. Oh, that's one of my GoPros turning off. But yeah, this transmission, it is annoying. I don't like it. Although, to be fair, I think I've made that very, very clear. So if you're thinking about this car, oh, Corvette. If you're thinking about buying this car, or you want to have a hybrid, or just any crossover, and you must have an automatic, I would urge you to test drive this car first. To be fair, I'd urge you to test drive any car. You shouldn't buy a car without test driving it. It's silly. But yeah, give this a good test drive, ideally in and around town, where there's plenty of roundabouts and junctions, because yeah, you may find it to be yeah, a frustration, a bugbear. That's the phrase I was looking for, a bugbear. Through the corners, the S-Cross is okay. The suspension is more of a soft setup, therefore it's not designed for handling. In all honesty, I find the Vitara the more start again, Aaron. In all honesty, I find the Vitara the more rewarding car to drive. The S-Cross, I wouldn't say it's mediocre, that would be harsh, but it's just dropped gears. I'm braking downhill. Oh, that's probably why, because I'm going downhill. It wants to drop to the lower gears just to help so the car doesn't kind of run away. But, oh, drop the speed down. Yeah. But you see what I mean about the gearbox? It's almost like it has a mind of its own. In regards to manoeuvrability, the S-Cross does well here. The steering is nice and light. It's not a massive car, therefore it's not too... Oh, hello. Gearbox has changed its mind again. Oh, God, the car actually lurched forward then. Come on, fourth. Give me fourth. I know I'm going uphill, but surely I can have fourth. I'm doing 51. It's really hanging on to third gear. You can probably hear the engine. Change up. There we go. It decides to change to fourth when I'm right at the top of the hill, where I probably do want third now, just to help get me over the crest. Because now I've got no power, and that's... Oh my... Oh. I don't think I've ever been so angry with a gearbox. Just... Oh. Yeah. Hand on heart, I think this may well be the most irritating gearbox I have ever used in a car. And this car has replaced the old automatic S-Cross. So I don't think you can go, aha, I can still buy that, because you can't. Not unless you go in the used market, of course. Now, let's pop it into sport mode and see how that changes things. So twist the dial to the right. A little sport thing come up on here. That does make the car a bit more responsive. I wouldn't say the difference is night and day. And hopefully it will make the gear changes a bit more snappy. Now, talk about refinement. It is a very windy day, so you probably can hear the wind noise, but the tyre noise isn't too bad actually, but that's the benefit of having 17-inch alloys. You don't fall into the trap of having low profile tyres which make more noise. And using my sound meter on my way here at 70 miles per hour, this car was doing 69.5 decibels, which is pretty good in all honesty. It was better than I was expecting, because with it being a Suzuki, it hasn't quite got the same amount of sound deadening as some other cars. And I'm not being rude to Suzuki, I'm only being fair. The build quality isn't quite as substantial. Not to say that this car's going to fall apart, but it's just, yeah, it's just, this car is cheaper for a reason. That's not me having a dig, that's me simply stating the facts. Visibility is absolutely fine. Door mirrors are of a good size. We've got blind spot monitoring and rear cross traffic alert. Seeing out the back is absolutely fine. The rear windows are good size. A-pillars are a little bit chunky, but that's to be expected in an SUV. And seeing over the shoulder, well, I can't exactly do it now, but I've had no problems. Oh. Yeah, this is a decent car let down by its transmission. A pity, really. If I wanted to buy an S-Cross, I'd probably stick with the mild hybrid, which has the 1.4 litre turbocharged. Is that a Kona N? Yes, it is. Nice. Yeah, I'd stick with the 1.4 turbocharged petrol unit, and that has the manual gearbox. when I drove the Vitara, the gearbox was annoying, but I was able to put up with it because it was a shorter drive. Now I've lived with the S-Cross for the week with this transmission. My thoughts have changed somewhat. Go on, you've pulled out now, you may as well go. Right, let's see what the cornering is like in sport mode. Engine is a bit boomy, isn't it? It's not so bad when you're cruising, but under load, it likes to make itself heard. Front end grip isn't too bad, bearing in mind this is wearing eco tyres as opposed to more performance based tyres, with it being a family SUV. I haven't spoken about the ride actually. The ride can be a little bit jiggly, but to be fair, this road is rather uneven. The suspension is quite soft, but when you're at slower speed, you can hear the suspension working away, and you can hear the odd thud every now and then. Having said that, I've been driving in and around Worthing, and the roads there are awful. Therefore, it's always going to make the suspension sound a bit on the noisy side, because there's more potholes than there are craters on the moon. Oh dear, Lord above. The camber on, was that a Toyota? I didn't quite see it. I was so mesmerised by the offside front wheel. It's at a really serious angle like that. They've obviously done some off-roading and they hit something rather big and hard at a fair lick of speed. Yeah, it's an interesting stance. I really hope you saw that, because yeah, that car looked rather buggered. Gearbox being indecisive again. I haven't mentioned the brakes actually. The brakes perform well, but I find quite often in hybrids the brake pedal can feel rather numb because of the regenerative braking, but no, the brake pedal's got a pretty decent feedback in the S-Cross Hybrid. You can't actually change the rate or the strength of the regenerative braking. It's just set to one setting all the time. One thing I haven't mentioned, I won't finish just yet actually, I'll finish at the car park around the corner. This car can be driven in EV only, so if I pop it back into auto, at some point you may see that it pops up in EV, but this is only really for short distances. This isn't a plug-in hybrid, but hopefully if I ease off the accelerator, the car can be driven in EV. Hopefully it'll flash up. It's normally at cruising speeds, but it might be because that the battery hasn't got enough charge in it. Yeah, the EV only mode is really for short bursts. It's not something like the Cougar plug-in hybrid, for example, where you can drive up to 35 miles on electrification alone. This is more for brief periods. But hopefully you can see the battery icon pop up, showing that it's regenerating energy that would otherwise be lost from braking and deceleration. But yeah, surprised that the EV hasn't come on. The change in gradients obviously, well, most likely isn't helping. But hopefully before we finish, you'll get to see the car go into EV only mode, but I don't quite think it's going to happen. Let's pop it in eco mode, see if that makes any difference. So you do have an eco button to the right hand side to get even more out of this car, which you'll probably need because yeah, the fuel economy I've been getting hasn't been particularly impressive. Ha, there we go. We are now an EV only. So the 1.5 petrol engine has been put to sleep for the time being. Sounds a bit sinister. Didn't mean it to. And now it has been awoken because there is an incline. Right. Annoyingly, you didn't get to see the EV mode, but rest assured, it is there. Oh, Mark II MX-5, nice. All right, and as is often the way, we finish with a lovely look at the wondrous South Downs. Very, very picturesque indeed. I do hope you have enjoyed this video or found it useful. If you have any questions or comments, be sure to drop them in the comments section below. Yes, but if you have enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment and subscribe. If you are subscribed, don't forget to click the bell icon so you get notified every time I make a video. But until the next time, guys, be sure to keep up the car obsession.